come from Belgium, not so far away, and we are specialized in the senses, because we've heard about the emotions quite a lot. We've heard that we might be turned into chatbots within a few years, but I don't think we've really spoken a lot about the senses and how we could use the senses more into our daily job as a quality researcher. So today, along with my colleague Mwenge, I wanted to share with you a tool that we've developed. Okay, we love it. It's been great to work with it. We have a few cases, but it will be up to you to judge whether it's useful or not. Before I take you to our thinking and why we created this tool, I want to start by telling you a story, because we're data miners, we're like researchers, but at the end of the day, it's about whether you can tell a good story at your client, right? This is a bit dark, but you can imagine it's a room with dark lights. It's a room like that was at the place where my mother used to work. She used to work with severely handicapped people. And when I was younger, I used to hang out there, and there was this older woman, handicapped, and we used to get along quite well. I used to call her Bobon, which means grandma or something like that. And she couldn't talk, so interaction were quite limited, but we could play, and namely go to that room and interact over there. And even though Bobon couldn't speak, she was able to communicate very well with me using senses, like playing with the lights, making some noises, or showing texture to me. So it was something quite playful. And when she was angry at me because, I don't know, I was solving the puzzle too quick, she would make that very clear. Or when she had a bad day and she was feeling a bit blue, not knowing why, I didn't know how to react either, but there we found a way to communicate and sometimes to calm her down. And I thought, okay, even though you cannot express things with words, you're able to transmit emotion or many different things through the senses. And senses are quite a powerful tool that I think we don't use that much in quali. So I'm going to try to explain to you how we can do that. Let's start by a little warm-up exercise. It's an easy one, right? You all know this. If I ask you which one is Kiki, which one would you say this? Yes, it's this one, right? That's an easy one. Kiki and Booba. Now something a bit more difficult. If I'd ask you, looking at those colors, which one tastes bitter? Number 3? Number 1. Oh, okay, so the difference. You say number 2. If I'd ask you maybe an easy one, sweet. It's number 4, right? It's quite direct. And like you don't see here, it's like green and yellow, and this is sour. This is salty, and this is bitter. And this is something that's well known and that we also encounter at Haystack when doing taste tests. That, of course, when you see a color, then immediately there's a perception of how it will taste. So, okay, we've seen that shapes have sounds, and that color can taste something. So how far can we take this? We live in a multi-sensorial world, so there are connections between the different senses. You might be familiar with the work of Kandinsky. Well, when he was playing, doing some gesture, playing with color, he would hear people hissing or moaning, and everybody thought he was crazy, but turns out he was kind of a genius. Or the composer, oops, I go a bit too far. It's not yet your time. Can I go back? Yeah. I don't know whether there's this sound or not. No. there's no sound. Yeah, I know you want to see Ratatouille as well, but it's a bit too early. Anyway, what I wanted to say is that the composer lit also, when he was composing, he was seeing colors. And when I played the piano, my Russian teacher, I'm not going to mimic her accent, I'm not so good at that, but then she explains to me, okay, you're playing it like light gray. That's not quite how he wanted it. He wanted light purple. And I'm like, okay, I think I get it. And then she seemed to be satisfied. So using colors, for instance, to express which type of emotion you're trying to get. Now it's your time. I love this piece of the
Cousteau was
of
right.
the movie.
Oh.
Do you see well?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Amazing. Each flavor was
It's
totally
okay.
unique.
So he eats this type of product and
But
he sees colors and
combine
shapes
one flavor with another,
and type of
and
music.
something
And
new
when he
was
combines the
created.
cheese and the strawberry, it leads to something just like with the chocolate and the insects. You want to play it again? Allez, yes. Come again, Ratatouille.
Oh, Cousteau was right. Oh, yeah. Oh, amazing. Each flavor was totally unique. But combine one flavor with another, and something new was created.
And basically, this is what happens when we show a packaging to our consumers in groups, or we make them taste a product. But then I was wondering, how can you access to this movie at the back of their head? How can you give them tool to explain, this is actually how this makes me feel? Because not everybody is Kandinsky, or not everybody is a genius in the piano. So what can we do to dig into that? So what I wanted to do is not only do the emotional part, we're quite good at that already, or not only do the sensation part, asking how does it taste? Because at Haystack we have brilliant people who do all the sensory tests, but I wanted to see how we could combine the two together. And there's a quote in a book that's called The Art of Eating. I'm quite obsessed by food, if you haven't understood that by now. It's a book that was written in the 40s by a woman called Mary Fisher. And she says something like that. She says, once in the lifetime of every human being, whether he be a brute or a trembling daffodil, should come a moment of intense gastronomic satisfaction. It is, I am sure, she continued, as much a matter of body as of spirit. When you have that, it's perfect. Nothing jars. There's a kind of harmony with every sensation and emotion blended into one chord of well-being. She loved to eat, but I relate to that, right? Maybe not with the chocolate with the insects, but I mean, I'm from Belgium, so let's talk about chocolate. You can relate to that when you let a piece of chocolate melt into your tongue, and then which type of landscape does it create? Which type of sensation does it create in you? So we were wondering, how far can we go? For instance, would it make sense to say something like, this biscuit tastes sad? Or this cappuccino makes me feel blue? Or would I be able, if I'm pouring Prosecco, which type of landscape does that evoke in my head? And now if I'm pouring champagne, is the sensation different? Can I able to put, maybe not words on that, but try to dig into this type of, okay, I see half of the population doing yes, and the other like, what? I have not smoked anything yesterday evening in Amsterdam, for the record. Because actually, it's a condition everybody has since you're little, this ability to see different senses. It's called synesthesia. So it's a condition, to say it like that, where the elicitation of one sense leads to another. And if actually you ask around you, you might find a lot of people have that. The most common, like I found out my sister sees always the letter A red. And when I ask her about this project, she's like, isn't like that for you? Don't you see all letters or numbers in a certain color? And no, fortunately not. But we have not been taught to use it. When she was little, my mother said, I don't know what to do with what you're doing, right? She's a fiscal lawyer right now, so she's not using this creative side of her brain that much. So actually, when we grow old, all those connections in the brain, they get lost because we have to focus in a way to be more efficient and to think faster, and all those brilliant things just don't, we don't use it anymore, so it's gone. But there are some traces even in the way we speak. When we speak about loud colors, for instance, or bittersweet feelings, for instance. So in some of our expression, you can feel that we're quite at ease with that. And as a consumer, we use it also. It's something that happens really automatically without thinking. Like we found out also sometimes we like to mess with the consumers, and when they're doing taste tests, for instance, you could put something blue, and nobody is able to recognize it's Fanta, for instance, because what you see has such a strong impact on what you taste. You're absolutely unable to recognize this is an orange, but it's blue. So just a few examples to tell you how powerful the senses can be. And yet, I mean, our clients, and when you go in a shop or when you see the packaging, the clients, they do play with the senses. But as market researcher, I thought, we looked around in what was done, and we thought not many people were using the senses. Maybe it's less fancy and exciting than to talk about virtual reality or artificial intelligence. You know, when people eat, they spit, they chew, and it's messy, and it's dirty, and you don't know what to do with this information. So I get it that it's difficult, and I'm not saying we found the solution, but we really believe at Haystack, if you want to understand what makes a product successful, what makes a packaging attractive, or why is it that you eat this product in this specific moment in time? Why is it that there's a fit and that you need this cookie at this hour of the day? Well, you need to look at the senses. Otherwise, you're missing a part of the story. Okay? For instance, if you go to a Michelin star and that the fork is in plastic, or like here a little in wood, it's not going to taste great. You know, you need to see the whole picture. If we think of this in terms of brand assets, it means you really have to be coherent in the types of sensorial cues that you use, okay? Because it's then easier for consumer to recognize you or just to like you. And everything has an importance, even the shape of the spoon, the texture of the spoon, so we have to pay more attention to that. I think it's something that car manufacturers have got very well, for instance, because just by hearing the sound of the door, you immediately get a sense of how solid this car is or not. Like, can you please do the Range Rover or Land Rover or... And then the Twingo. I mean, doesn't the Twingo look safer? It's actually funny because when I've sent this presentation to a colleague, he told me, look, I like it, but there's something wrong with this slide. Like, it's wrong, because he likes this type of car, apparently, I don't know. And it's as if it was itching him. He said, I don't like it, you need to find another because it's just not fitting the picture. I said, yes, I know, that's the point I wanna make. Another example you might already have heard of this, sorry if that's the case, is about Danone. This product Light and Free, and they made a partnership with Spotify because they've studied, which type of music should you be listening whilst you're having this product. And if you want to have the more intense experience, so not just eating a product, but just having this moment, when you have this product, this is the soundtrack, this is the playlist you have to have in order to make like this a coherent thing and to maximize your pleasure. I think that's pretty cool. I'm like, okay, but how can I find out which type of music, which type of sounds? From a pure methodological perspective also, we were also inspired by this gentleman here saying, look, guys, there's a mismatch between, on the one hand, what your clients do and what you do as a market researcher. Okay, projective techniques, great. Picture set, great. Videos, great. But what about the senses? Which type of toolkit do you have to elicit the senses and to be able to give tools to consumers so that they can explain you, like Ratatouille, what's happening to them? And that's when I thought back of Bobonne and this room. It's actually a technique that was developed by Dutch psychologists in the 70s, I think. It's called snoezelen. So, pardon me, looking for the Dutch colleagues here. So it's a mix between doezelen, which means like taking a nap, yeah, and snuffelen, which means like explore, sniff, inspire. Yes, it's a weird name, but okay. So it's a room where you have all types of tools at your disposal, and it creates a kind of ambiance that you can play with the light, you can make sounds, stuff like that. So I don't want to compare consumers to handicapped people, but I just thought maybe there's inspiration over there that we could do. So we searched a bit about what's out there, what have people before us tried, and then we came up with a toolkit that you can move, because we use this for different countries. So you should be in a room that's quite dark, and yet you have a specific sensory islands, if you can call them like that, using big tables like that. And each table is a sense, and consumer can wander freely from one to the other, depending on which one inspires them the best, okay? So you have, one is a black feel box, when people can put their hand, and you have a selection of different types of textures, for instance. Another one is a selection. I think we have, the library is about 40 different types of scents. Might be too much, so you can make a selection, okay? Different types of fragrances. We also have a library of, okay, so the sound is not working, that's okay. A library of sounds. Sounds more for nature sounds or more city sounds that they can listen and then select, okay, this is more this type of atmosphere I want to transmit. We also have different types of lights, so they can play also with the color of the light. You know, it's this light from Philips that you can select which type of color you'd like to have. And then we also have modeling clay, so that they can make shapes if they feel comfortable with that. Not everybody is, but some, the ones who are, delivered good results. And then we also have the more traditional techniques with pictures, more abstract, or the animals, or you are all familiar with that, so that they can at least get back to more normal quality tools if they feel uncomfortable. Okay? We use, I guess most of you are familiar with the Extensidium model, okay? We've decided to use this as well because when clients use it for their brand, it's easier for us after to say, okay, well, we are here or we are there. It's not the objective to quantify all the tools that we have, But so far, we do have the textures and the sounds of animals, for instance. So we know when somebody selects this type of texture, we know it's more likely that he meant something more like power rather than belonging, okay? And when you make actually, at the end, a kind of collage, if you want, but a more sensorial collage of all the different cues, then you're quite able to get a good idea of, say, okay, so when they eat this product, or when they touch this packaging, or when they think about a brand, we are more in this area. Is this where you want to be or not? And then we can start discussing, okay? I cannot share many outputs with you, but I still wanted to do it. So this is going to be really ugly. I've deleted most of the things, but just for you to get a flavor of what type of output we have. No, it's too early. First, I'm going to tell you then about this study. We did it in Arabic countries. And the pitch of the client was, I have a packaging that stands for premiumness, but it works well in the Westerns. But I'm wondering if it evokes the same thing in the Arabic countries, because if I use, gold over there, it might be just business as usual in the Arabic countries. So which type of cues in the packaging really elicits this recognition, for instance, or this pride, okay? So what we did, we had a selection of different types of stimuli, okay? That we were able to give to consumers. And on a side note, but that's not really a side note, it was quite important in the process. So we had a 6 group in Egypt, in KSA, and in Dubai. Each group were lasting more or less 3 hours. And we started each group by a meditation session. Maybe it's a big word, just some relaxation techniques, because we wanted the participants to be able to focus on their sensation and to be quiet, to be aware, as Maria told us earlier. And it worked quite well. The client said, well, it has been a long time since I haven't had that amount of details, because we were able, for instance, when they say, okay, I like this color, yeah, but what is it in this color? And you say, I like the red, but which type of red is it? And why? And we can really go really deep. And this red on this texture, what does that tell you? If it was velvet or if it was satin, it might be a different story. So that was a way for us to make participants more aware before they went into the room, because this exercise was silent, and afterwards we had the more normal focus group when we could exchange, okay? So what we had to do, we had to cut the packaging into which type of shape. Is it more round? Is it more square? Which type of material? Are there specific functionality, like it should be a bag that opens like that, or more like a box that makes a nice sound? Is it big? Is it small? And which type of finishing effects are there? Okay. So it's a bit like doing semiotics for the ones of you who know it, just deconstructing a packaging into the different cues and saying, what does that mean? What type of impression does it give you? Okay. And then you could have, let's say, something like that. So you had the winning mix of cues to brief the packaging agency. On the upper part, it was all the cues more about how it should look like, but also the textures, for instance. And we were also able to give indication about how the product inside should be. Because it's, I mean, we see it's a packaging study or it's a product research, but for consumer, yeah, the packaging gives you immediately a feeling of what the product will be inside, and maybe the other way around. So, okay, would it be something more milk chocolate or dark chocolate? Would there be insects in it or more nuts? Which type of nuts? Small pieces, big pieces, etc. okay? And also a way to tell the marketing story, like if you are a marketeer or an advertising agency, which type of insights or which type of word do you have to use? This is another example that we conducted for Barry Callebaut. It's also about chocolate. Surprise, surprise. And here we also had experts panel to help us define precisely things like which type of percentage of cacao would you need. And we validated also with Neuro, but that's another story that I'll come back another day maybe to tell. So you could have something like this, where you map actually the different flavors and the different types of packaging to say if you want to be more into belonging, for instance, it's more likely to be something like that. Whereas if you want to be more into the enjoyment or conviviality, then it's something else. Okay? Or this is another example that we did for then with two brands, for instance. And the client thought, okay, if we want to have two brands and I want to enter this new category, but are they not going to cannibalize each other? Is there a sense of overlap between the types of landscape, let's say, that are elicited? And we thought using the senses, for instance, working for skincare, that it was a must for us. So here, for instance, you can see, okay, they are positioned in two different ways, so that was fine. Okay? Or when it gets funny is when you get lucky enough to be able to do this in different continents and checking the different association, because when Chinese people might eat a product, you remember Ratatouille? Their little internal Ratatouille is thinking about A, but when you do the same product in Chicago, for instance, because the framework of reference is totally different, then it's another landscape that's there. So for instance, here, a chocolate that might be associated with more pride, recognition, I want to impress people. For a person in Chicago, it was more about a boost and recharging through the day, okay? So I think that's really interesting. We haven't not yet done it, for instance, for fragrances. That would be also interesting to see what's behind a smell. For instance, I don't know, if I want to be fresh, well, what does that mean? Maybe in Japan, fresh is water, for instance, because that's their framework. But maybe in Brazil, fresh is Amazonia, so it's more something that is linked to the woods. And we don't know that. And okay, maybe you can ask just people, but I think you have higher chances of getting the good answer if you also use a more sensory way of asking the questions. Okay? And I think that's it. So I don't know what you think about it. It might be totally crazy, but we loved designing it. It's really fun to use. So I hope you liked it.
Thank you. You enjoyed it a lot?